supply chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended Podcast, and the founder of the Blended Pledge. And we've got a very exciting show for you today. We've got Susan and Janet here to talk about Breakbulk, which is coming up in just a few weeks, and you're going to want to know why you want to be there. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening and what's new at Let's Talk Supply Chain. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about our show sponsor, the Secret Society of Supply Chain, which is our membership groups. So head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com. We have got something for everyone, including women in supply chain, marketing professionals in supply chain, and everyone in supply chain. We've got a first virtual monthly networking session that's happening for Secret Society of Supply Chain April 10th. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Now let's get to what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we've got 2 brand new episodes for you. I know we usually release only 1 episode a week, but right now we're releasing 2 because we've got a special series for you as well. So episode 455 was recorded live at Manifest with Shannon Hamilton from BlackBerry Radar, and it's titled Discover Event-Driven Platform Technology. Now, this is all about asset tracking, and we actually get to see some of their technology in action. So I would highly recommend to go and check that out wherever you listen to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, or go and watch it on YouTube so you can see the full video of that. Next, we've got episode 456, Reaching Supply Chain Excellence with ITS Logistics. Josh Allen joined me for this particular episode, and we talked all about what is happening in the trucking industry. We talked about who ITS Logistics is, why they could be the perfect partner, and so much more. So go check that out wherever you check out the show. And then we've got a lot of live stream events happening this week. So live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, Christine Barnhart is hosting Supply Chain Unfiltered with special guest Bennett Bishop, and he is the director of operations finance at ICE Industries. They're going to be talking about smarter decisions with real-time inventory. Now, if you cannot attend live, click the attend button. We will make sure to send you the link after the recording. Next, live on Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern is our contribution to cold chain with Frostbites and PackSafe. They're going to be talking about cold chain strategies with Maersk, compliance, growth, innovation. Cold chain is a really hot topic right now. Make sure that you don't miss that one. Click the attend button. We'll send you the link for that one as well. And on Thursday as well at 1 p.m. Eastern, I am going live hosting a conversation about optimizing your freight strategy for faster, smarter, profitable moves with Haley from OptiLogic and Derek from Lineage Logistics. So I hope to see you at all of these events. Even if you can't attend live, click that attend button so we can make sure that we send you the recording, because they are sure to be some really, really great conversations. Next, I just wanted to show you this because our team posted this on the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. We got a lot of really great comments and feedback on this one. If you're a supply chain professional, you know that you wear all of these hats on a day-to-day basis, and we want to tip our hat to you because you are the frontline workers and make sure that products get to everybody's door on a regular basis. And last but not least, where are we going to be? Well, I'm going to be at the Breakbulk and Project Cargo Conference, which we're talking about today, April 24th and 25th in New Orleans. And I will be hosting Breakbulk TV. And then in May in Nashville, I'll be at Home Delivery World. So if you're going to be there, let us know because I'd love to see you. All right. Now it's time to bring up our guests for today. Hello, Susan and Janet. How you doing?
Good morning.
Hi, Sarah. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's not really morning for you, Susan, right? You're
No,
coming at
it's
us
not.
live from the UK, I think, right?
I am. It's 2 p.m. in the afternoon over here.
Nice. And how's the weather? Because
Oh.
around this time of year, it doesn't, it's not very good.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. So I have literally just taken off my gloves because I didn't think it was the right thing to have on a podcast with you. It's
my whole
freezing.
my whole family lives in the UK and we do happy hours every couple of weeks. So I get to hear about the weather all the time.
My favorite conversation.
Right? I think Brits love to talk about the weather. All right. Moving on, moving on. We do need to let everybody know who you are and what you do. So starting with you, Susan, then we'll go to Janet. Tell us.
Okay, so I'm Susan Oatway. I'm the Senior Research Analyst with the Journal of Commerce for S&P Global, and I'm Breakbulk and Project Cargo specific. So everything Breakbulk, everything multipurpose fleet, heavy lift fleet, all of that, numbers are absolutely my thing. So that's me.
Awesome. Love that. Janet, over to you.
I'm Janet Nodar. I am the senior editor for Project and Breakbulk Cargo for the Journal of Commerce. And I'm also the co-chair, along with Susan, of the Breakbulk conference that you were just discussing, which is in New Orleans, April 23rd through 25th. I've been covering Breakbulk for the Journal of Commerce for most of the last 20 years. By far the most kind of interesting cargo to talk about as far as I'm concerned. So it's really a pleasure to be here today.
Okay, so before we go on, and because you said that, can you define Breakbulk and Project Cargo for anybody who doesn't know what it is?
Okay, so Breakbulk and Project Cargo is kind of cargo that will not necessarily fit neatly into a container. It might be too large, too heavy, too awkward, too big, although it's not, it's a little more complex than that. But also it includes cargo like big steel pipes, like heavy equipment that you would need to build a big project, like an industrial project, like a big pressure vessel or windmill blades, things like that, that have to be handled carefully. They have to be handled by stevedores. They can't just be, put in a box and taken on and off the deck. So they require special handling. They are malleable in terms of modes sometimes, but quite often need very specialized ships with very specialized capacities. What am I forgetting, Susan? Susan knows this just as well as I do.
Well, I was going to say, so can I just put my teacher hat on? So I teach chartering for the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, and the definition of breakbulk is unitized pieces. So breakbulk cargo could be anything that you can pick up individually. So steel pipes, bags of fertilizer, bags of coffee, bags of
Rubber.
whatever. But rubber tiles, timber, pieces of timber, but also wind blades are effectively breakbulk cargo because you can lift them on and off the ship like that. Whereas project cargo is stuff that is for projects. It's for building, it's for construction, it's for
and includes
mining. And it includes, yes, and so the thing to remember is that Breakbulk and Project Cargo talks about the commodities, whereas the mode of transport is different. So container carriers can carry Breakbulk and Project Cargo. Multipurpose ships can carry Breakbulk and Project Cargo. Ro-Ro can carry Project Cargo, and that's what Janet means when she says malleable. They are mode malleable because you can take in all those.
They tend to float to where there's capacity available and where they're depending on costs and port calls and things like that.
And roll on, roll off. So when they say row, it means roll on, roll off. So it's a vehicle that can roll on and roll off. And if you've ever been on the highway and you see the trucks with those something really big on it and it takes up most of the lanes, that's another example of what we're talking about today. All right, let's get to our poll of the week, and then we're going to get to a market update. Now, if you're watching, if you're in the audience, make sure you put in a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Rodrigo over on my personal LinkedIn says, hello, good morning. Want to say hi over to you as well. If you're enjoying the conversation, use some emojis, show us what you think. All right. So the poll of the week, we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning on our LinkedIn. What's your go-to weekend reset? So we had about 127 votes for this one. 43% of you said nature getaway. 33% said binge watching a series. 18% said cozy day with a book. Now, if that nature getaway includes a beach, I'd be in that 43%. What do you think, Susan? What do you think, Janet? What's your go-to weekend reset?
Well, I just came back actually from a weekend with my girlfriends in Norfolk. Went for a long walk on the beach, sit and chilled, drank prosecco. Perfect weekend.
Nice. I love that. What about you, Janet?
Well, I live in Mobile in Alabama, which is actually the home of Mardi Gras. So we have been doing Mardi Gras for weeks. Just finished. Ash Wednesday was, I don't know, the Tuesday before last. So my weekend getaway now is to do nothing. Just do absolutely nothing. To calm down, maybe a cozy day with a book. But that's not necessarily true all the time.
Well, and I can only imagine, because I've actually seen some of the stuff from Mardi Gras, and you're right. It seems like it goes on for weeks, and
It does. It starts at Epiphany, and on we go.
All right. Well, I want to know what your go-to weekend reset is, so make sure to put that in the comments. Now it's time for a market update. So I want to ask you, what are people worried about? What are they thinking about? We're going into Breakbulk, so I'm sure you're talking to a lot of people who are coming to the conference and looking for specific topics. So who wants to take that one?
Well, Susan, we had talked about this earlier, but I think that the thing that we are hearing about from a lot of cargo owners, but also from other involved people are really worried about the new proposals for 301 tariffs that would affect the ability of Chinese owned, operated vessels or carriers who have Chinese ships, have new building orders for Chinese ships, whether or not there's potential for very large costs attached to those things. So Susan, I know you've been dissecting the fleet and talking about just what specifically this might mean for people. Do you want to take that?
So the first one is the USTR 301 about it's Chinese built ships, Chinese operated and owned as well, but the main thing is Chinese built. And the MPV and heavy lift sector, and indeed,
you probably need to say what MPV is.
Sorry, good point. Multi-purpose vehicles, which are
vessels,
multi-purpose vessels, who are the absolute workhorses of this sector. They carry most of the project cargo and breakbulk cargo that we talk about. So they're characterized by the fact that they have combinable cranes and twin decks, and so they can carry lots of different types of cargo. The vast majority of them are currently being built in China. So currently the fleet at the minute, 52% is Chinese built, and the proposals are that there could be $1.5 million port call tax every time that vessel touches the US, which is wow. Yeah, wow. So I fielded a lot of calls last week about what's the fleet makeup, which owners are going to be affected by this, operators, all of them. Practically every single operator has that problem. For containers, it's a cost that they can disperse amongst the containers on board, but you're still looking at something like an extra $250 per container.
Okay, so we're not looking at pandemic level pricing. Because when you said that, I was like, are we going back to pandemic level pricing? But $250 container.
They will be. It's a whole different kind of kettle of fish, because in the multipurpose sector, one vessel may have just one bill of lading, right, for the whole cargo, or for maybe three shippers are carrying their cargo on that one ship, and it has to go to a certain port. It may have to go to other ports as well, but instead of being able to disperse the costs over a number of importers, over any number of containers, this is going to be the importer of record owing for their percentage of that port tax for the port call. It's very daunting, very daunting.
That's a really good point.
And another whole kettle of fish, Susan, is figuring out who is the operator. How do you trickle down those costs? Is it a bareboat charter? Is it, what kind of relationship are we talking about?
So there's a couple of things before we go into complete disaster scenario. It is still in the what do you call it? The stage where people are making. There's a number of the EPCs are lobbying, a number of the big trade associations, ECMC, BIMCO, and ASBA have all apparently got lobbyists going into Washington about this. I think that finishes on the 26th of March. It may, wise words may come through, and it may all stop, but a couple of shippers have said to us they consider it a credible risk, so they're having to plan for this. And what you said, Sarah, about pandemic costing, that absolutely it could, because the point is, in all honesty, the carriers are not going to pay that charge, and neither is China. That's that ship sailed. The carriers are not going to pay that charge. It's going to trickle down to the shippers and to the importers, and so the rates are going to,
and to the consumers. I mean,
absolutely,
right? Everybody's talking about inflation. They're talking about higher prices. They're talking about how the new administration is supposed to be bringing that down.
Yeah.
But with the imposition of this, it's going to trickle down to the consumers. All right.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
let's get to our first article. Now, this is a bit of an earnings update, I think, from John Deere. I fell upon this a little while ago, and I wanted to bring this to the fruition because I think John Deere is most likely going to be at Breakbulk, and I thought it was a good sort of article to bring forward. I liked this article because I thought that it showed how sustainability and corporate growth is possible. And I just want to highlight 2 slides here. I really like the fact that they talked about their employee volunteer hours as well. I mean, that's a little bit self-serving because I do have a nonprofit, and it's great to hear that companies are having volunteer hours and ensuring that their employees can do that as well, because that's, part of employee well-being. I also thought this was a really interesting number, the 775,000 connected machines, just to give everybody an overview from a technology perspective, how companies like John Deere are looking at technology and connected machines and IoT. So, Janet, do you want to take this one and give me your thoughts on this?
Okay, so for us, first of all, John Deere does come to the Breakbulk conference. They are, for us, they are ro-ro cargo, as well as they do also ship a lot of container cargo. They do a lot of exporting, but ro-ro meaning roll on, roll off on specialized ships, which is what we talked about before. So that's why they're interesting to us. They, I would say, so a couple of things that as I was reading to get ready for this conversation, I was also struck by the number of connected pieces of machinery, the equipment. I think it's very interesting. I think it is definitely aids in precision farming, what they call precision farming, where they are able to really help farmers be the most efficient and maximize what they're doing. But there's also some real points of contention with this. The FTC has ruled that John Deere has to allow farmers to, for example, repair their machinery themselves. They can't. They have to be able to have the freedom to do that. There were restrictions. And I apologize for not being super well read on this. I just had a little bit of time. But there's, it's not just all roses and butterflies. There's complexities to these new ways of managing information and technology, and there is some contention there between the clients and the provider. Also, there's another couple things is although John Deere does not appear to be very interested, they're about the tariff costs on their imports that they're importing into the United States. They for their manufacturing aspect, the manufacturing side of what they're doing, they supply a lot of their supply chain comes from the U.S., but they do export a lot, and they could be affected by retaliatory tariffs if those come into play. Also, their clients are farmers for their agricultural equipment, right? And those farmers are really waiting to see what's going to happen with the tariffs and the retaliatory tariffs that may be in play. There's a lot to play out before we really know what the situation is going to be like.
Well, and I think there's a lot to unpack with this particular article. There's a lot of pages. I would highly recommend people go and check it out. There's some interesting numbers in there.
But this is pre-tariff. That story is from before the election. So
Yeah. Yeah. So keep that in mind when you are reading this article, but some interesting thoughts around technology, sustainability, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Let's get to our second article. Now, it's not really an article, but it is about the Breakbulk conference and what people can expect. Now, your theme for 2025 is disruption and demand all day, every day. How did you come up with that? I love it. I think it's great.
I think because we keep, go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think so. Janet is absolutely the wordsmith. I have to say, I'm the numbers girl, definitely, for sure. But I think one of the things we did is we spent a lot of time at the end of last year talking to every single person we talked to. We said, "What's the one word you would describe is happening with the market at the moment? What's the one word?" And uncertainty and disruption and how they manage that was a theme throughout. It didn't matter where you were on the supply chain, shipper, receiver, carrier, whatever you were. That was the main thing that they were talking about. So disruption all day long is really what it. And I have to say, we started talking about this in October, and we're now 6 weeks out, and so much is changing.
So much disruption.
So much is happening. So, who should be there? Who should attend? This is just a bit of a bite-sized example of what people can expect from some of your featured sessions. But who should go? I think there's about 2,400 attendees. So it's a
no.
Oh, there's not. Oh
no.
So talk to us about the size of the conference. Talk to us about who goes, who should go, that kind of thing.
Well, we had last year, I think we had 870 people attend, awesome. And that was the largest that we've had. It was maybe just a little bit larger than the year before. We do not want, this is a conference. It's not a trade fair. There's no booths. It's people networking sessions, and then our big main conference, conference sessions. And so it is an intimate event. We try to keep it very high level. The people that attend are cargo owners, project owners, carriers, lots of service providers like project forwarders, ports, terminals, and then other sort of auxiliary service providers. Who am I forgetting, Susan? Can you think of anybody?
I think that's freight forwarders, cargo owners. That's typical. And anybody who touches Breakbulk and Project Cargo, whether you are, we also have insurance people there. We have lawyers. We have
our specialists from S&P Global,
traders. We've got agency companies who deal with the ships when they arrive in port. It's anybody who touches Breakbulk Cargo because the agenda covers all of that. It covers, yes, we are going to talk about tariffs and USTR
geopolitical risk,
and we're going to talk about all geopolitical risk is the main thing, the main keynotes. But we're also going to talk about supply chain risk. We're going to talk about the fleet. We're going to talk about and you should mention, Janet, we're going to talk about tariffs. Have we said that once? I think we should say it again. We're going to talk about tariffs. But Janet, you should talk about the focus sessions because that's your particularly brilliant idea.
So we've shifted gears a little bit. Last year we had some classes, if you will. This year we're changing gears and taking that classroom idea and turning it more into what we're calling focus sessions. So these are less formal sessions where we'll have some subject matter experts focused on a particular topic, and they will be there to interact with the audience. So it's not like a lesson where you're standing up in front of a room imparting your knowledge. It is more very interactive. We'll be inviting people to bring their questions. The subject matter experts will have questions for the audience to answer. So what we're trying to do is focus in on things that people have told us they have a lot of concern about or interest in, like cargo preference laws. There's one session on cargo preference, which is more and more important, especially with the potential 301 tariffs. We'll have a session on tariffs, customs, FTZs, which all kind of combine together with how you manage your importing, especially in a time of uncertainty. We'll have a session on AI and technology and Breakbulk, which is, as with the rest of, I'm not sure about, I always hear that we're always behind. We're behind on the AI thing, right? So some questions and ideas and thoughts about new approaches about that.
AI is a very, very
anyway, so we're very excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Eric Johnson, our senior editor for tech, will be there. So we'll have an expert on board to be managing that aspect of the conversation.
Awesome. And I partner with a Journal of Commerce on a regular basis. And the one thing that is consistent throughout all of your events is the content, right? The content is really run and moderated on stage by journalists. And so
Correct.
we're getting really to the meat of the issue, and everybody really leaves with a lot of great insights, valuable, actionable takeaways that you can really take away back to your teams. All right. So I can't wait to see everybody there. If you're not registered, you need to register. We've put the link in the comments for you to go and check it out. I will be there hosting Breakbulk TV and interviewing a few people for the team at JOC as well. So I'm super excited about that. All right, we've got a couple of minutes left, and I do want to get to the matcha story because I know this is on everybody's mind, especially those who drink matcha. And I'll tell you, the afternoon of a conference, I like a good green tea matcha latte with coconut milk. So when I saw the matcha shortage, and this kind of goes with the theme for Breakbulk because disruption and demand, the matcha shortage is because of global demand. Now, if you want to look at this article, a couple of key takeaways that I took away from this was that the shortage is due to global demand because a lot of matcha is put together or farmed on small family-owned farms. It's also due to unpredictable weather, so climate change, but also the aging population in Japan is leading to labor shortages as well. So a lot of supply chain challenges or similar supply chain challenges that we're having with labor shortages, et cetera, et cetera. But it's an intricate balance, it says, between tradition and modern demand. And that kind of made me think about tariffs as well. So Susan, what do you think about this particular article? What stood out for you?
Well, the thing about Matcha is it's not quite in our wheelhouse because it's from my reading, I think it's containerized air freight largely when it goes backwards and forwards. I have to say also in the UK, we haven't quite got the matcha trend yet.
No.
Paul Hollywood doesn't like it, so we don't even put it in our cakes, for Bake Off. It's not quite here. But you're absolutely right. I think the supply chain commentary is global. I think the demand, and especially if as trade lanes could change with the tariffs that are currently being put in force, both the tariffs that are coming out of the US and the retaliatory tariffs going backwards, the possibility of moving your sourcing and understanding your where everything comes from. I think that's going to be, it's true for matcha with regard to the demand, it's true for a lot of things. I've just got to bring it back to Breakbulk. It's particularly true for steel at the moment. That's a big one. But I also think the whole capacity issue, as in, is there the demand for it? Is there then the capacity to ship that demand, whether it's by air or sea? That's a global issue at the moment. And also, is there warehousing? Is there trucking availability? All those things are, to be honest, the commodity itself is almost immaterial. I mean, I agree with you. I read it and I thought, what I really liked was the whole individual homegrown, how they talk about sustainability and bringing it forward. And you don't get that so much in the larger Breakbulk commodities. But I think the supply chain issues are going to be are global, and they're going to affect all of us, and equally whether it's coming into the US or indeed anywhere else, to be honest, at the moment.
Yeah, and it brings, I think, to light for a lot of consumers and people that don't think about supply chain on a day-to-day basis as to what small farming or capsule collections, what it means when we decide that something is very popular and we go all into it, but it could be intricate. It could have some craftsmanship behind it, which means that it's going to take some time to get to us. And I think about also the cream cheese shortage during the pandemic and how everybody realized that they wouldn't have cream cheese for their bagels. And that was a big deal. But really, at the end of the day, these are all supply chain issues, and it helps us bring supply chain, Breakbulk, project cargo, everything to do with supply chain to the forefront and really boil it down to the consumer level where they understand how important it is, the work that we do in this industry. And I think, really that at the end of the day, that's something to be celebrated.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at the end of the show. Janet and Susan, thank you so much for joining me here today. Next week, I'm going to have 𝐓𝐡𝐨𝐮 from Terminal 49 join me as our guest, and we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. But for everybody in the audience, thanks for joining us today. And again, Susan and Janet, thanks for joining me on Thoughts and Coffee today.